Okay, now you've got your heading complete. Now we want to go down and develop a plan. And this plan will be to help you move from the idea into the actual implementation of the idea that God has given you for this seed project. And you see in this slide the highlighted part of the seed project planning guide, which is the plan. Now, let's look carefully at the top part of the planning guide, and you'll see 5 columns. And in these 5 columns are some of the basic elements of any plan. In the first column, you have the steps, where you identify what the step is that you're going to take. And then for that step, you ask the question, who do we need to consult? And the third column is, what resources do we need in order to be able to fulfill that step? And fourth, we say, who's the person responsible for that particular step? And finally, what day? When we start with day 1, which is, you can actually put the calendar date if you want to, but it's better just to have the days numbered as generic days. The project begins with day 1, with step or day 1, and then from there you figure out how many days from day 1 each of those steps is going to take and where it falls in the sequence of following days. So, for example, looking back at the heading that we just used as an example, we would look at the first step. What is that step? Well, it's according to what you see on the slide, it's a prayer and decision. It's a time to ask God, what does He want us to do? And then, who do we need to consult for that step? Obviously, God. What resources do we need for that time? We need time and reflection. And then, who's responsible for that? Well, it would be the local church leaders, or in your case, it would probably be you. You would be the responsible person. And when does that happen? What's the finish day of that? Day 1. Or maybe you take several days to pray, fast, ask God what He wants you to do. So it would be maybe day 3. It just depends on what your individual circumstances are. Okay, well now let's, in the next slide, slip down to step 12, actually building the latrine. So as you can see, we're going from 1 to 12, so we're missing steps 2 to 11. But I just want you to see how this gets filled out. Okay, on step 12, the actual thing that we're going to do on that day is to build the urinal. And then who do we need to consult for that step? Well, obviously the church and the community have been interacting all through the previous steps. And then what resources do we need? Well, we've already gathered some of the material resources. And so what we really need is a common free day where both the church and the community can participate in the building of the latrine. And then who's responsible for that? By this time, it's the project committee, and that's you and the others that you've engaged in planning this particular seed project. When does this happen? 6 to 17, following the very first day you began. And you ask the question, wait a minute, I thought that a seed project was simple and short. Well, what we mean is that the actual time that you carry out the seed project is only, 1 or 2 days maximum a week. So so the day 16 or 17 shows you that, wow, planning a seed project may take quite a long time, but the actual carrying out of the building the latrine happens on day 16 and 17. Okay, now what I'd like to do with you is to walk through a real plan, a sample plan, so that you get a better idea. And then following this, you're going to develop your own plan. Okay, let's begin. Okay, the heading of this particular plan came through or from a project that was carried out in the Dominican Republic. And as the pastor and the elders prayed about what they should do, they felt God was saying that a big area or a big problem in their slum community was that husbands don't respect their wives. There's a lot of beating, a lot of abuse, and so they felt that God wanted them as a church to address that particular issue. Husbands don't respect their wives. What are God's intentions? Number 2, that husbands should love their wives. What scripture do you find that verifies that? Well, that's easy. Ephesians 5:25. Number 4, what are they going to do about it? They decided to hold a seminar on biblical husband-wife relationships in their church. By the way, I thought they were very, very creative in terms of developing the advertising for this. And because you couldn't expect a bunch of pagan men to come and learn about God's principles for loving their wives or respecting them. So they advertised this as, come and find out about what God says about controlling your wives. It was interesting. They packed out the center where they held a seminar because these guys were very interested in knowing how to control their wives. And what they found out was that you control them by loving them and by serving them. Anyway, the primary impact area of this particular seed project was wisdom. But they had refreshments. There was obviously a spiritual side effect, and also there would be physical implications. Hopefully, as those husbands treated their wives with respect, there would be less abuse. Okay, let's walk through the plan then. Okay, and rather than going through, all 5 columns, I just want to go through the project steps, because the rest of it you'll see on your printout. But let's just get an idea of the sequence. Number 1, step 1 was prayer and decision. What are we going to do? Step number 2 was to do a survey in the community to see if the men of the community would be interested in this kind of a seminar. 3, to get a seminar teacher. 4, it was to get lesson material, printouts, handouts that they could use. 5, to get a venue, decide where to have that. They felt it wouldn't be good to do it in the church because men in that particular community didn't come to church, so they held it in a community hall. Number 6, to arrange for refreshments that they would have in the seminar. Number 7, print announcements. Number 8, have a prayer meeting. Remember, we said seed projects should be bathed in prayer. So they prayed in the beginning. Now in the process, they're praying again, asking God for His leadership and His blessing upon their plans. Step number 9, they distributed the announcements. Number 10, they conducted the seminar. And notice that's on day 23. Wow, it took a long time to get to the actual short-term project. And it was only one day, but it took 23 days to get there in terms of the planning process. And step number 11, prayer, thanking God, asking Him to bless what was shared in the seminar. Number 12, evaluating. This is critical for any seed project. Make sure you evaluate it when you complete it. Number 13, to write a report of what happened. And number 14, essential, plan for the next seed project so that the projects can be ongoing. So what I'd like you to do now is to take the blank form of the seed project plan, and then now you've got your heading, using that as the basis of what you're going to do. Now fill in the rest of the report.